New Mexico Grass tells the story of cannabis in the land of enchantment. From the Llano Estacado to Shiprock, and from the Sangre de Cristos down the Rio Grande and past Mesilla, the story of New Mexico is alive with culture and wisdom, and cannabis has long been a part of that tale. Please join us as we sit down with our friends and neighbors across this great state, and let's learn what they have to say.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to New Mexico Grass. This is the first episode, the first interview that's coming to you in the new passed through the New Mexico legislature world now, where we have a cannabis law. The governor hasn't signed it yet. My bet, I don't know this, but if I was a betting man, I would say it makes a lot of sense that she's probably going to sign this on April 20th. I don't know that. I haven't heard anyone tell me that. But if I was going to speculate, when is the governor going to sign this cannabis legislation? A little birdie's telling me April 20th makes a lot of sense. So we'll see if that happens. But nevertheless, it's coming soon. In the meantime, in this post-positive cannabis world here in New Mexico, really excited to bring our next guest, Michael Romero. Michael's got an interesting story. Not only does he work at the Everest Apothecary up in Albuquerque, he's one of their growers. He's also part of the PPL program, which I want to highlight again, because I think this is a great way for people to kind of get their toe into the cannabis business a little bit, start learning a little bit, gain some experience, start gaining some terminology and whatnot. And then eventually they could leg up perhaps into the 200 plant micro license, which will become a law very soon. But let me do this. Let's turn it over to Michael. Michael, let me ask you, how did you get involved with cannabis? Tell us a little bit about your background and sort of what are some of the things that got you started in the cannabis business here in New Mexico?
So I've been a medical patient since about 2015, 2014. So I guess it's been about 6-7 years now. And after seeing how the medicine just kind of helped the quality of my life and just kind of made life a little bit better, I just kind of decided I wanted to get into the industry. And that's kind of the goal that I made. So I really started trying hard to get into the industry. And I actually got in to start at Greenleaf. And I was a budtender there for about a year and a half. That started back in, I think, 2016 or 17. And I actually really loved that job, getting to talk with the patients and getting to recommend medicine to them and getting to just talk to my fellow citizens that live in the same city that I do, that just have the same respect for the same medicine that I do. It was awesome. And it really made me fall in love with the industry. So from there, it kind of made me want to go to the growing side, because that's what I had more of a passion for.
Now, hold on. Before you jump into the growing, step back to your life as a bud tender. What exactly does that entail? Like, what kind of knowledge did you have to learn? What kind of terms did you have to pick up to be a good bud tender? What makes a good bud tender?
I would definitely say just knowledge about the plant and compassion. You're going to have a lot of patients coming in and out all the time, and you just have to be really compassionate with all the patients. Sometimes you're going to get somebody that needs to be in and out within a couple minutes. Sometimes you're going to get somebody and it's their first time, and you have to really explain the medicine, and you have to explain even how to break it up or how to put it in a pipe. Just little things like that. And I think it really helped me. Like I said, I think I had some compassion for it, but it really helped my compassion grow. And
Sure.
And it was just awesome. Like I said, being able to help people and talk to them about being able to use it safely for their first time, about how to use it for their first time, about what kind of feeling they were looking for to feel medicated, and just a lot of things like that. And it really educated me in a sense too, just learning about so much stuff and seeing how other people would bud tend. And that's actually one thing that I would recommend a lot of people, how to get into the industry, because I know a lot of people don't want to be bud tenders, but I've actually met quite a bit of bud tenders that have got it their way in that way, and then went to the grow or went to the trim. And I feel like that's a really good way to kind of get into the industry, to be honest.
Sure. So now you take this appreciation for the end product how to describe it, how to look at it, what makes, the different varieties of cannabis. And then you go into the grow room. So tell me about that transition after you left your job as a bud tender and you started on the grow side. How did that go?
So I did start growing about the same time that I got into the industry and became a bud tender. So I was growing at my house, and I was actually going to school for horticulture at CNM. They didn't offer a degree, but they offered a few different classes that you could take as like electives. And I took 2 or 3 of them. And I learned a lot about plants in general, a lot about agriculture, and just the different things on how plants process the sun and a lot of things like that, what kind of nutrients they need. And from there, like I said, I kind of wanted to start getting into the growing side. So I actually started applying for jobs, and I became a trimmer at Harvest Foundation. And I actually trimmed for them for about 6 to 8 months. And that actually kind of made me fall in love with the bud and the product even more, because I got to handle it every day. I got to really be careful and hand trim it. And it kind of got me.
Tell me about what makes a good trimmer. Because there's a lot of debate that I have with my friends about what's good and bad trimming. Tell me, what makes good trimming?
I would definitely say patience. A lot of people like to rush through it and go fast.
Yeah.
I was always taught to take your time, and you want to just kind of clip the leaves, and I was taught not to really touch the bud. I've met some people that like to take the bud off of the stem and stuff, but the way that I was taught was always true hand trimming. You kind of hold it from the stem, you kind of trim it around, and then you just kind of trim it directly into the bucket, so it's never really touched by your hands.
So you're handling those trichomes as infrequently as possible, right? Leaving as much on there. Now, having been a bud trimmer, what's your feeling on machine trimming? A lot of places, a lot of big places, there's a lot of machines that are employed. They're super efficient in a lot of cases. How good a job they do varies a lot, but what's your feeling on it?
To be honest, as a patient, I would definitely pay an extra $1 or $2 to have my medicine hand trimmed. I know a lot of patients that would do that as well. Coming from a business aspect, I could see how some places would want to use a machine trim. It's a lot easier. You get the keef. You can really just expand your labor and your profits.
Sure.
So I can kind of see some benefits to it. But as a patient, like I said, I always believe that the highest quality medicine is always going to be hand trimmed. And I believe that people will usually pay an extra $1 or $2 for that. I myself, I do that as well.
Well, you said they collect the keef. Well, they collect the keef because it gets banged off the plant while it's going through the machine, right? Yeah. Okay. So, but anyway, there is a bit of a debate in the industry about hand trimming versus the machines. We've looked at both, in terms of quality, but also in terms of the business math. Because let's be honest, like that is a part of it. And, as growers, we have to consider all these things. Now, so you have some experience bud tending. Now you go into the trim room and you're getting really good on the trimmer. Talk about moving into the grow room. Like you've got your horticultural background. How did you first apply that to cannabis?
So I was actually very blessed in the fact that my teacher loved all organic products. And so right off the bat, from the horticulture stuff that I was taught with any kind of plants, I was taught all organic sprays, all organic nutrients in the soil, all organic amendments and manures and just stuff like that. And so that was one thing that really I think was beneficial, because I just carried that over to the cannabis industry. And from there, I was actually very lucky to get on with Everest, because that is one style that they grow, is all organic, just all organic nutrients, all organic sprays, and everything is very, very organic there and living soil. And that is one thing that I love about working there, is just the style. And I was, like I said, I was actually very fortunate, because I was able to take exactly what I was doing in my house already to work, versus I know there's some other places that grow hydroponics and a little bit different styles, which I know how to do and I can still do. But my favorite style is soil, because that's what plants love. Plants love soil.
Absolutely. No, the natural stuff, right? Now, I want to jump a little forward in the growing process. I want to talk about drying and curing. How important is the drying and curing process, and what kind of challenges do you face in Albuquerque with your temperature, humidity, and everything that you have up north?
So drying and curing is essentially, that's one of the final steps that makes the product, kind of like puts the cherry on top, because, aside from trimming, But if you don't dry and cure it properly, you're not going to get that taste, you're not going to get that smell. And that's essentially what people are looking for, especially when you're picking the bud and the Budtender opens that jar and you just smell the smell from across the room. You know, that's a really good factor that people are looking for. And I guess one of the hardest factors is our low humidity. A lot of people like to cure for the first couple of days around 50% to 40%, and then kind of slowly drop it after that. And obviously our humidity is usually like 20%, if that, sometimes lower.
Yeah.
So it kind of varies. Some people I've met like to put humidifiers and dehumidifiers in their house, which I've done that. And it's usually the best way to cure at home, just because you kind of get that low, slow cure. And I like to do it with, usually, I mean, in an air conditioned room if you can, so you get like 60 to 65 degrees is the perfect area, really. But my experience at work, to be honest, the way that we grow, whenever we pack a room full of cannabis, the humidity goes up because all that plant just has the moisture in it. So the humidity naturally goes up. So if you don't have a couple of dehumidifiers running all of that moisture out of that room, you're naturally going to have problems. But that humidity kind of helps, just helps the cure go kind of slower. And so I would say we kind of don't really run into any problems at work or in a business sense because you have a little more controlled environments. One other thing I would say about New Mexico versus like California, which I've never grown there specifically, but I've heard a lot of places have more problems with like post mildew, or powdery mildew, excuse me, PM. And botrytis and a lot of stuff like that, which a lot of places here, we don't have any problems like that because it's so dry. So that is one thing that I do love growing at a place that has a lot lower humidity and a lot higher elevation, because it's a lot easier to get a clean product in the end.
So I'm 100% in alignment with you. Here in Curry County on the eastern side of the state, we're even drier than you guys are up in Albuquerque. But we find that it's a little bit of a blessing and a curse, right? Like you're 100% right. In that drying room, that curing room, you really need to have a good humidity level and you got to maintain it. And with our low levels of the dry out here, the arid temperature, arid humidity, you really need to keep a close eye on it. But if you do that, we almost never have a mold problem. Like you almost have to work hard to get a mold problem, you know, like so it's a good benefit to it out here. So if you can get that good dry and cure it. All right, listen, I totally agree with you. Let me tell you, let's jump to another subject real quick. We just passed our cannabis legalization, the full Cannabis Legalization Act last week. What are your thoughts on it? And I'm imagining here in the near future, the cannabis business in New Mexico is probably going to roughly double in size, if not a bit more, which would mean a lot of new people coming into this industry. What's been your experience working in the cannabis business? If someone was going to ask you, hey, should I go get a job working in cannabis? What would you tell them?
I would tell them to try and just get their foot in the door any way possible. I mean, if you could get in on the production side, being a pre-roller, if you can get in as a bud tender, if you can get in essentially anywhere, that's the most important part, is just getting in first off. And then from there, I would say just trying to maneuver your way to whatever kind of, like if you want to go to the grow or the extraction or something from there. But I would definitely just say, try and get in any way possible. Because I know a lot of people have their heart set on growing or becoming a master grower or something really big. And I think the first thing is just getting your foot in.
Start getting some experience, start learning the terminology, meeting some people, that kind of stuff, right? Basic stuff. Do you find it to be a satisfying industry? Do you think there's a good upside to it? Is the money pretty good? Like, you know, what are your thoughts on the more practical aspects of it?
To be honest, I actually really love the industry. Before I got into the industry, I was a manager running an ice cream shop, and I was kind of just bouncing around from different job to job and going to school for fire science and for automotive mechanics, so for different things. But once I got into the industry and just started meeting the people and just seeing how genuine either the patients are or the workers are, and mostly just based upon the medicine that we all work with, and it's all just one common love. I really just started to see a different quality of people, to be honest. And I really clicked with all these people, whether it's a patient or a worker. And I never really looked back from there. That was one of the best things. I think I made so many good friends, and it's just been really awesome because you get to work with a lot of like-minded people, and that's not really common whenever you're doing something else, you know?
Yeah, no, it's a good vibe. A lot of people on the same kind of energy wavelength. Let me ask you this: the law that passed has a 200 mature plant, I should say, 200 flowering plant, micro license carve out. For a guy like yourself, you got growing experience, you know the business more or less top to bottom now. Do you see yourself one day as an entrepreneur that might be participating in this micro license?
To be 100% honest, I kind of do. That's actually one thing that I've been keeping my eyes on as well. And that's actually one reason why I wanted to work in as many different ways of the industry, like growing, bud tending, trimming. The only thing I'm missing is extraction, but I do have a rosin press and I press my own rosin on the side. But
organic, right? 100% organic.
All organic, all rosin. Yeah. But aside from that, I do just absolutely love being in the industry. And it is very awesome.
Yeah. And all due respects to your current employer, Everest Apothecary, great firm. He's not going to drive you out of business. He'll work with you, not against you. Just to throw that in there. Yeah. Listen,
no.
Go ahead.
Oh, no. And I was just going to say, and I know they still have a few laws to write and stuff, but I think the most important thing about getting into the industry, whether you want to be an owner or a worker as a bud tender, is just having the passion, having the compassion for the plant, having the compassion for the medical side, because that's where it all started. And I know that, like you said, the job opportunities are going to double and triple, and there's going to be a lot more competition, but there's also going to be a lot more money flowing. And I feel like there will be people getting paid more and more opportunity and a lot of different things. So I do feel like it will be beneficial for the city, for the state, and for a lot of people, to be honest.
100%. We totally agree with you here. And we're having this conversation against the context of just talking about the state of New Mexico. It'll be legalized federally in 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, whatever. And the opportunities are, hopefully, right. And it'll only grow from there. So we've got, real positive vibes here that good things are on the horizon. Michael Romero, is there anything I've left off? Any final words you want to leave with our viewers about the state of cannabis here in New Mexico?
No, I think we've covered a lot.
All right, excellent, man. No, it's been great having you here. I appreciate your time. Michael Romero, a grower at Everest Apothecary, a grower at Everest Apothecary. Thanks so much for joining us here today, and we'll speak to you again soon. And to all you out there here watching us on YouTube, thanks for tuning in to New Mexico Grass. We'll see you in the next episode.
Thanks for having me.